Millionaire exposes stepmother's shocking abuse. His heartwarming act transforms their lives forever. Jake Henderson took a deep breath as he stepped onto the once familiar porch of his childhood home. The wooden planks creaked under his feet just as they always had, but today they felt heavy, burdened by unspoken words and unresolved tensions. Returning to Maplewood after years in the fast-paced world of tech had been a dream, but dreams often wear masks, and as the door swung open, the mask slipped away. He was met not by the loving embrace of home but by a chilling silence. His stepmother, Carol, stood with crossed arms, her face painted in a scowl that felt like an icy gust of wind. Gone was the warmth he remembered, replaced by a stifling atmosphere haunted by shadows. Yet, his heart ached as he looked for his sister, Lily. He found her curled up in the corner of the living room, a ghost of the radiant girl he once knew. The light in her eyes was dimmed, her spirit bruised. Jake felt a tightness in his chest. What had he come back to? "Hey, sis," he called softly, a smile breaking through his concern. But Lily flinched at the sound of his voice, her joy replaced by a deep-seated fear of Carol's barbed responses. Memories of her giggles echoed in his mind. She was always the light in their father's shadow. Now, she seemed more like a wilting flower. Carol's cruelty seeped into every crack of their family dynamics, and Jake could feel the weight of his responsibility, one he'd thought he'd escaped. With each demeaning remark Carol hurled at Lily, rage simmered beneath Jake's skin. Had he built an empire only to witness the decay of his family? Did the sacrifices he'd made to pursue success justify this nightmare? The guilt gnawed at him fiercely. As night fell and silence returned to the household, Jake's desperation for change propelled him out of the house into the cool night air. He learned of a local community center, a place that aimed to support families like his. The thought ignited a flicker of hope deep within him. He could help, he could save Lily. He could fund a program dedicated to children who felt trapped in a web of despair. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but as he gathered support, whispers of doubt slithered through town. What does he really want? They asked, while Carol's fury intensified, turning his good intentions into weapons of guilt. You're just making it worse, she snarled, her accusations tearing at Jake's heart. Just when he thought the darkness could not sink lower, Lily exploded in rebellion. She pushed him away, an anguished shout that split the air, revealing the scars beneath her anger. The pain etched in her voice stabbed at him, the painful realization that his money, despite its power, couldn't patch their fractured relationship. Jake stood at the crossroads of his life, heart heavy with uncertainty about family, and his mission to reconnect with Lily. There was sadness, but sage wisdom whispered, healing would take more than just financial support. A sobering question lingered in the air: could he truly change the toxic narrative written over them, or were they trapped in their own story forever? Jake stood there, the weight of Lily's rejection pressing down on him. He had fought hard to be successful, to come back and even save his family. But how could he save them when they pushed him away? A wave of sorrow washed over him, mingling with his growing determination. Was he going to give up on them? Not now. The cool night air bit at his skin, but he welcomed it. It reminded him he was alive, that there was still a fight left within him. Jake ambled down the street, the dimly lit homes around him standing as silent witnesses to his turmoil. He could still picture the laughter that once filled his house. Could he bring that back? He headed to the community center, the flickering lights beckoning like a lighthouse to a weary sailor. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by a warmth that contrasted sharply with the chill outside. A group of kids were huddled together, making crafts and laughing. Their joy was infectious. Jake's heart swelled as hope began to flicker anew as he approached the center's director, a middle-aged woman named Ms. Taylor, whose kind eyes glimmered with understanding. "We need resources, we need volunteers," she said, her tone optimistic yet tinged with urgent need. "And we need someone willing to fight for the kids here. Are you ready to help?" Jake nodded vigorously. "Whatever it takes," he replied. As they discussed plans to raise funds and organize events, he felt a sense of purpose ignite within him. This wasn't just about money, this was about building a community, about creating a safe haven for kids like Lily, but even as the plans unfolded, nagging doubts lurked in the back of his mind. What if Carol sabotaged everything? What if Lily didn't want to come? The thoughts twisted his gut, but he pushed them aside. For the first time in years, Jake felt empowered. Over the next few days, he plunged into organizing, coordinating with local businesses, and rallying volunteers. The sense of camaraderie was uplifting. He shared his mission with Lily, but she remained distant, retreating from his conversations like a deer caught in headlights. Then came the day of the fundraising event. The community center buzzed with excitement, filled with families and children milling about. Jake was nervous but hopeful. This was his chance to show Lily and himself that family could be reclaimed. As the event kicked off, he scanned the crowd, looking for her. His heart dropped as he didn't see her. Just then, he caught a glimpse of Carol, her arms crossed, standing at the back of the room, a dark cloud over her. Jake's stomach twisted as he felt the tension radiating from her. "Jake," Miss Taylor called, pulling his attention back to the festivities. He turned to her and saw the joy on the faces of the kids. "You're making a difference," she said. But in the back of his mind, he heard Carol's sneering voice, echoing his fears. Before he could respond, he noticed a familiar face peek through the crowd. There was Lily. For a fleeting moment, time stood still. But she hesitated at the door, her gaze flitting around like a captive bird unsure of flight. "Lily!" He called out, his heart pounding. Would she take the leap? She looked at him, and for a moment, he thought she might turn away again. But her expression shifted, something sparked in her eyes. Jake held his breath, waiting for her next move. Would she step forward and embrace this chance, or retreat back into the shadows of their broken home? The air thickened with anticipation as every eye turned toward Lily, waiting for her response. And in that charged moment, Jake realized that this wasn't just his battle. It was hers too. Could she find the strength to rise above the pain? The uncertainty hung heavy, fueling his hope and fear. What would happen if she didn't? The moment of truth was approaching. Lily's gaze flickered between Jake and the doorway. The chatter around them faded, replaced by the heavy silence of the moment. Every soul in the room seemed to hold their breath, urging her forward with their collective hope. Jake's heart raced in his chest, each beat a pleading echo for her to step closer. Finally, with a deep breath, Lily's shoulders relaxed. She took a tentative step inside, her hesitation melting slightly as she caught sight of the crafts table, vibrant with colors and laughter. A spark ignited in her eyes as she looked at the kids, their joy somehow infectious. Jake's heart soared, but a shadow of doubt still loomed over him. "Hey, come join us," a little boy called from the crafts table. His cheerful invitation broke through the tension, and gradually, Lily found herself moving toward them, drawn into their energy. Jake watched her, a cautious smile creeping onto his face. Just like that, he murmured to himself, hoping this was the first step toward healing. Every small action counted, and as she settled into the thrumming excitement, Jake felt a flicker of belief ignite within him. This wasn't just a fundraiser, it was a lifeline that he turned back to Ms. Taylor, who watched with a knowing smile. "See? She just needed the right invitation," she said softly. Her words were like a comforting balm, easing the worry gnawing at him. As the night unfolded, Lily laughed with the other children, her laughter ringing out like music in the air. Jake couldn't recall the last time he had heard it, and it felt like a dose of hope amidst the chaos of their lives. When he caught her gaze from across the room, she smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face and drew him in like a moth to a flame, but then, like a needle scratching across a record, the atmosphere shifted. Carol strode forward, her expression stormy. Jake's stomach twisted again as the tension crackled in the air. She spotted Lily, gathering the shadows around her with every step. "What are you doing here?" Carol called out, her voice sharp. The warmth that had filled the room evaporated, leaving cold dread in its place. "Just having fun, Mom." Lily shot back, her voice quivering slightly yet defiant. Jake could feel the heat rising in his chest, a mix of anger and protectiveness. He took a step forward, adrenaline surging. "Lily's here because she wants to be," he said, his tone steady but firm. Carol scoffed, narrowing her eyes. "You think this is all it takes? She's better off away from you." The room shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between Carol and Jake, creating an electric tension he hadn't anticipated. He glanced back at Lily, whose smile faltered, the light in her eyes dimming under the weight of her mother's words. "No, she's not," Jake replied, his voice rising. "She deserves to be here, to be with friends, to feel alive, not locked away in fear." Lily looked between them, uncertainty creeping back. The laughter faded, replaced by whispered murmurs from the onlookers. The very community he had fought to unite was now turning acrid. "Maybe you should just leave, Jake. You'll mess up everything, just like always," Carol spat, her finger pointing at him as if it held truth she could wield like a weapon. Jake's heart sank as those words struck like a blow. He was determined to stand, to fight for his daughter and their chance at becoming a family again. But with Carol's toxic presence looming over them, would he even be able to defend what little progress they had made? As the air thickened with unresolved tension, Jake felt the familiar weight of despair wash over him. He glanced at Lily again, her eyes shining with fear and uncertainty. Would she choose to stand by him, or let her mother's words push her back into the shadows? The moment of reckoning loomed closer than ever, with the stakes higher than he had anticipated. He took a breath, ready to confront whatever came next. Would this battle strengthen their bond, or fracture it further? The answer was just out of reach, hanging heavily between them as he prepared for the confrontation ahead. The crowd held its breath, the tension spiraling like a tightly wound spring. Jake looked at Lily, and for a second, everything seemed to fade away. The laughter, the crafts, the colors that had filled the room, it was as if the world had narrowed down to just the two of them. He needed her to see that she could stand up to Carol, that it was okay to choose happiness, to choose him. "Lily." Carol spat, her voice slicing through the charged silence. "You'll regret this. You need me. I'm your mother." Jake stepped closer, trying to shield Lily with his presence. "No, Carol, she needs to be free. Free to find herself, free to be happy." Lily's gaze darted between them, searching for answers written in their expressions. Carol's eyes were hard, filled with fury, while Jake's were softer, urging her to trust him. "Mom, I can know." Carol interrupted, her tone sharp. "You will not do this. You will not walk away from me." Jake felt the heat rise in his cheeks as the room murmured nervously, the onlookers caught in the crossfire. "She isn't walking away from you. She's finding her way back to herself," he replied, his voice steady. Each word was a thread woven with hope, trying to stitch their frayed relationship back together. Lily took a small step forward, her brows drawn together. "Mom, I want to be here, with Dad." The simplicity of her words landed like a pebble dropped in water, rippling through the crowd. Here was a girl who just wanted to belong, to be seen, and to be loved for who she truly was. Carol's face contorted with anger and panic. "You don't know what you're saying. That man is a failure. You're making a mistake." The pain in Jake's chest tightened. "She's not making a mistake. She's claiming her life back from you. This doesn't have to be a fight, Carol." But the fierceness in her eyes told him she was ready for battle, no matter the collateral damage. It was a twist of fate he never anticipated. Just as he thought they might be making progress, the storm surged back, dark and overwhelming. Jake's heart pounded. He felt the eyes of the crowd on him. He wanted to scream, to rail against the injustice of it all. Instead, he took another deep breath. This is a community, Carol. It's about support, about being there for each other. He dared to reach out to Lily, resting a comforting hand on her shoulder. The small gesture felt monumental, like a lifebuoy thrown to a drowning sailor. You have every right to choose who you want to be with. No one can take that from you. Lily looked at him, her eyes shimmering. I want to create. I want to laugh. I want to be happy. Her voice, soft but resolute, broke through the tension. The room fell silent, the atmosphere thick, humming with emotion. Carol's face darkened, but within Lily's plea, something shifted like the dawn creeping over the horizon. Carol started, but her voice wavered. For a moment, Jake thought he saw a flicker of doubt in Carol's eyes, something akin to fear. Perhaps she felt the ground beneath her shifting, too. The audience held its collective breath, caught between hope and despair, waiting for the verdict to descend. Just then, Ms. Taylor stepped forward, her gentle yet firm presence radiating authority. We're all here for Lily. Our job is to lift her up, not pull her down. Isn't that right? The words resonated around the room and Jake felt a sense of unity emerge, binding them all with a shared purpose. But would it be enough to turn the tide? As Jake watched Carol's defiance wavering, he dared to hope maybe, just maybe, this could be a turning point. As things hung in the balance, Jake felt Lily squeeze his hand, a silent bond strengthening between them. The air buzzed with tension but also with a sense of new possibility. And then, Carol took a step back, her eyes flashing with fury and something else, the hint of vulnerability. Would she back down, or would she unleash one last desperate fight? The moment felt alive, charged with unspoken truths, teetering on the edge of transformation. The answer lingered just beyond reach, leaving a heavy question in Jake's mind. As the storm raged on, would he and Lily be able to weather it together, or would Carol's darkness consume them once again? Lily's heart raced, each beat synchronized with the mounting tension in the room. She glanced at her mother, whose expression was a chaotic mix of anger and desperation. For so long, Carol had wielded her influence like a sword, cutting into Lily's self-worth. But now, in this moment, that sword felt dull against Lily's newfound resolve. Mom, please listen, Lily urged, her voice stronger now. You can't control everything. This isn't about you or Dad, it's about me. The words flowed out, fueling her courage, igniting a fire that had lingered beneath her fear for years. Carol's face tightened, her fists clenching as if grappling with the weight of reality. You think you can run off to him? He's not your real father, Lily. Each accusation was a dagger, but Jake stood firm, shielding Lily, both physically and emotionally. Being a parent isn't defined by blood, Carol, Jake countered, his voice even. It's about love, support, and being there for a child. You've let that slip from your grasp. The room stirred with whispers of agreement, the community's support was pivoting toward them, and with it, a sense of empowerment began to swell within Lily. In that moment, she felt seen not just as Carol's daughter, but as herself. A wave of emotion surged within her, causing tears to brim in her eyes. It was a weight lifted, she was free to express her truth. I want a life where I can create, where I can find joy, and be accepted. I want to be who I am, not who you want me to be. The air crackled as speakers from the crowd echoed her sentiments. It's her choice. A voice carried from the back. Give her space to breathe. Another rallied, let her live. They formed a wall of encouragement, surrounding Lily like a protective barrier. Carol stumbled backward, almost losing her balance. The audience's unity was like a tide pushing against her, fueled by the urgency to protect Lily from her past. And there it was, a crack in Carol's facade, a glimpse of something deeper, perhaps regret or fear of losing the daughter she had tried to dominate. Stop this! Carol shouted suddenly, her voice rising like a battle cry, but anyone could hear the wavering note beneath her anger. Just stop and think about what you're doing. Jake felt the moment shift. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, feeling the pressure of the crowd's gaze. Carol, don't you realize that love doesn't come from fear? You're losing her, and not because of Lily's choices, but because of your refusal to accept her as she is. The silence hung thick, each second stretching into eternity. Lily caught her mother's eye, searching for a sign that things could change. Mom, I love you, but I can't live under your rules anymore. I need you to let me grow. For the first time, the defeat in Carol's eyes was palpable. It was as if the air had been sucked from the room, drawing in a collective gasp. Could it be that she was beginning to understand? And just like that, Carol's defenses began to unravel. I don't want to lose you, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Every breath felt monumental, and Jake could feel the fragile bond between mother and daughter teetering on the edge of new ground. Could Carol embrace this change, or would her fear push her deeper into darkness? At that instant, Lily took a step closer to her mother, vulnerability in her stance. Let us try to be a family again, just, in a different way. Just as hope began to bloom, the sound of police sirens pierced the stillness outside, an unwelcome interruption. The crowd's relief morphed into concern. What did this mean for them? As chaos encroached on their moment of potential healing, Jake looked to Lily, uncertainty shadowing his features. What is going to happen now? And in that instant, as the world outside churned, they both wondered if their moment of truth had come just a moment too late. What is going to happen now? Jake's question hung in the air like a dark cloud. Each siren's wail felt like a countdown, amplifying the tension building within the wall of support that surrounded them. Lily turned her gaze back to her mother, still caught in the fragile moment they had just begun to navigate. The realization of what was at stake settled heavily on her heart. Mom, please, she pleaded, an edge of desperation creeping back into her voice. This isn't how I want things to be between us. Carol looked away, her gaze drifting to the window where the flashing lights illuminated the dim room. I just wanted to protect you, she murmured, barely audible amidst the rising clamor outside. Her voice held a tremor that suggested more than just anger. There was fear. By trying to control me? Lily asked, inching closer. That's not protection. That's suffocating. She felt the warmth of her friends behind her, their presence a reminder that she wasn't alone. The crowd murmured in agreement, each voice building a swell of courage around Lily. One brave soul stepped forward. We're here for you, Lily. No matter what. Jake stood by, watching the scene unfold. Knowing the stakes were high, he felt he had to act again. Carol, if you really want to protect Lily, let her live, let her express herself. She is trying to show you who she is. But Carol's resolve began to show signs of crumbling. The police sirens drew ever closer, a reminder of where their confrontation might lead. I don't want to be the villain in this story, she said, tears pooling in her eyes as the weight of her words hung between them. There was a palpable shift in the air. Lily's heart ached as she saw her mother's vulnerability, a flicker of the woman she remembered from her childhood, before the control had taken hold, before anger had replaced laughter. I don't think you are, Mom, she whispered, hope lacing her tone. I just want us to find a way back to each other. A sudden shout from outside echoed through the window. Open the door. We need to speak with you. The urgency in the voice sent a ripple through the crowd, renewing the tension. Lily's chest tightened. This can't end like this, she whispered, looking desperately into her mother's eyes. We're at the edge of something good. Jake took a step forward, grounding the two women with his steady presence. We have a choice here, he spoke firmly. We can either let fear control us, or we can take a leap into the unknown and try to mend what is broken. As the police knocked again, the sound echoed through the room like a slow drumbeat, each knock a reminder of the outside reality encroaching on their fragile conversation. The truth can set you free, Jake added softly. Admitting pain is the first step to healing. Carol, show Lily that you love her more than your fears. A silence fell over them, thick and heavy, as the weight of his words settled. Carol looked at the faces in the crowd, the encouragement shining back at her, then back to her daughter. The moment curved around them like a fragile thread barely holding on. "What if I can't?" she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "Then let us face it together," Lily urged, pain and tenderness mingling in her words. "We can find our way if you let me try." Just then, the door burst open, police officers stood framed in the doorway, looking concerned yet resolute. "Is everything all right in here?" the officer asked, scanning the room with authority. The tension shifted again, and the moment hung in suspension. Would Carol reach for her daughter, break the cycle, and embrace change? Or would the arrival of the police disrupt the fragile reconciliation they had finally begun to find? As the sirens faded into the background, hearts pounded, waiting for an answer that could change everything. Lily felt her pulse quicken, knowing deep down this was just the beginning, but of what? The police officer stepped inside, his expression shifting from concern to surprise as he took in the scene. The crowd stood as a united front, their energy thick with tension. Jake took a deep breath, sensing the eyes of the room on him. This was a moment when every word mattered. "All right, everyone," the officer started. "Let us keep it calm. We just want to ensure there's no one in danger." He scanned the faces, settling on Lily and her mother as if sensing the emotional current between them. "Mom," Lily said, her voice barely more than a whisper, "please." Carol's gaze darted from the officer to the crowd, then back to Lily. Her heart raced as the weight of decision bore down on her. She wasn't just fighting with Lily now, she was up against her own demons, the fears that had kept her trapped for so long. "Can you give us a moment?" Carol finally asked, every word laced with vulnerability. The officer paused, looking between them, then nodded after a beat. "All right, but I'll be right outside." He stepped back, leaving the door ajar, a silent reminder that the world outside was still there, still watching. Lily took a deep breath, stepping closer to her mother, who looked like a shadow of the woman she had once known. "Why didn't you just talk to me?" she pressed gently. "Why all the rules, the control?" "I thought I was doing the right thing," Carol admitted, anguish clouding her voice. "I didn't want to lose you. The world, it can be so unforgiving. All I've wanted was to keep you safe. But by shutting me out..." Lily could feel the hurt pooling in her chest. "It just pushed me away, Mom. I need you to trust me, to let me be who I am, even if it means different choices than you'd make." Tears began to spill from Carol's eyes, the dam breaking that had held her fears for so long. "I'm scared, Lily, of losing you. Of not being good enough." At that moment, something shifted in the room. Lily's friends held their breath, sensing the monumental change. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, feeling the rawness of the conversation. "You're more than enough, Carol," he said, stepping forward. "Facing the truth will be hard, but it's what will truly set you both free." Carol's gaze fell to the floor, remorse coloring her features. "I never wanted you to feel like this. I thought I was being strong. But I see now," she hesitated, finally meeting Lily's eyes again. "I was just being afraid." "Let us both be brave together then," Lily offered, reaching for her mother's hand. The air felt different, lighter, as if a storm cloud had begun to break. Carol reached out, her hand trembling as it wrapped softly around Lily's. "I don't know if I can be what you need," she whispered. "What if we start by being honest?" Lily replied, her voice steady now, full of warmth. "That's where the healing can begin." As mother and daughter exchanged a poignant look, the door creaked open a bit wider, revealing the police officer standing just outside. His face softened as he read the room, noting the palpable shift from confrontation to connection. But just as hope began to replace the chaos, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. "Get back!" came a shout, and the moment fractaled, the tension snapping as they realized that whatever peace they had found could be shattered at any moment. What lay beyond the door could change everything yet again. Would they hold on to the fragile bond they were starting to forge, or would the world outside crash in and tear them apart again? Jake's heart raced as the commotion echoed through the hallway. The atmosphere shifted again, thickening with uncertainty and fear. He could see Lily's eyes widen, panic taking root. Carol squeezed Lily's hand tighter as if it could shield them both from whatever lay beyond the door. "Stay close," Jake whispered, instinctively positioning himself between the door and the two women. The crowd, once united in emotional support, fell into whispers, their fear palpable. He could feel the weight of 100 eyes on him, the breath of the room collectively held. A heavy footstep sounded, followed by another crash. Cries of alarm flashed through the gathering like wildfire. The officer outside braced himself, preparing to leap into action. "Everyone, back away from the door!" he shouted. Just then, the office door burst open further, hitting the wall with a solid thud. A figure stumbled in, disheveled and wide-eyed, barely able to catch their breath. It was Sarah, one of Lily's friends. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice breaking. "You need to leave." There before she could finish, the police officer stepped in, hand raised, his expression demanding calm. "What is happening? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," Sarah panted, glancing back over her shoulder. "But they're coming." "A group of groups." The officer gripped the doorframe, eyes narrowing, ready for whatever might come through next. In that moment, the wall of stability Carol and Lily had begun to build felt like it could collapse all over again. "What do you mean, they're coming?" Lily pressed, her voice shaking. Fear knitted itself into every syllable. "They're not alone," Sarah said, tears brimming. "They're looking for you, Lily. I don't know why, but you're in danger." All eyes turned back to Lily and Carol, confusion swirling into dread. A protective instinct surged in Jake, pushing him to respond. "We can't just panic. We need a plan," he said, his voice steady, keeping a grip on their swirling emotions. "Mom, we need to leave." "Now," Lily urged, eyes darting to the entrance. She was no longer the scared little girl, but a young woman ready to fight for her safety and her mother's. "No." Carol's voice pierced through the tension, almost a shout. "We can't run. This is my fault. If I had just opened up earlier, but you can't take the blame for this." Jake interjected forcefully, stepping closer. "We have to protect you, both of you. We can deal with everything else later." Just then, another crash reverberated down the hallway, louder this time. The door rattled on its hinges as the officer's expression shifted to urgency. "We need to move now," he insisted, looking at Lily. "Where can you go?" Realization hit Lily like a lightning bolt. "The back exit. It leads to the alley. We can hide there. Let us go." Jake grabbed Lily's arm, ushering her toward the back of the room, Carol close behind. But as they hurried to the exit, a flicker of doubt crept into Lily's thoughts. What if they escaped, only to step into something even worse? The now united trio pushed through the door to the back, hearts racing every step of the way. The police officer stayed close, focused and ready for anything. "Just hold on to each other," he directed, casting a glance back over his shoulder. Their futures were at stake, and time was growing short. In the chaos of their escape, could they hold on to hope, or would the reality of danger and fear push them over the edge into an even darker place? As they emerged into the cool night air, the sirens wailed in the distance, but the most daunting question loomed large: would they really be safe? The alley loomed dark and narrow, a stark contrast to the chaos they'd left behind. Jake felt the cool air wrap around them, biting and refreshing. But there was no time to savor the moment. Lily's grip on his arm was tight, and Carol's anxiety radiated just as fiercely, mixing with the tension that hung in the air. "Stay quiet," the officer warned as they slipped into the shadows. He scanned the alley, his eyes sharp. The sound of swift footsteps echoed down the street, and they all held their breath, pressed against the damp brick wall. Lily's heart raced. "What do they want from me?" she whispered, shock and disbelief bleeding into her voice. You'll find out soon enough, Sarah replied, her face pale. But you're strong, Lily. You've got this. The tight bond of friendship offered a fleeting comfort, but the fear gnawing at Lily's insides argued otherwise. She felt more like prey now than ever. Stay low, the officer ordered. He motioned for them to follow him deeper into the alley, away from the brightness of the streetlights. They awkwardly zigzagged, careful not to make any noise, fueled by adrenaline. As they moved, Jake began to think about what lurked beyond the darkness. He remembered the look on Lily's face when she first heard Sarah's warning. He wanted to shield her from everything. But how could he protect her when he knew so little about what was coming? Do you think they'll really find us? Carol's voice trembled, echoing Jake's own doubt. The uncertainty hung heavy around them, threatening to crush their fleeting resolve. I won't let that happen, Jake said, trying to sound confident. We just need to find a way to lose them and get somewhere safe. But as they rounded a corner, the reality of their situation sank heavily into Jake's chest. He suddenly felt the weight of responsibility, like a boulder pressing down. They couldn't keep running without knowing who was after them or why. Another crash in the distance sent shockwaves through all of them. The officer turned sharply, his instincts kicking in. We need to move faster. They scurried ahead, and as they did, Lily's anxiety shifted to determination. I can't just run forever, she said, her voice rising with strength. I need to understand what is happening here. I need to know why those people want me. Jake glanced at her and saw the spark of resolve igniting within her. He nodded, recognizing her bravery. We will figure this out together. Whatever it takes. As they reached the end of the alley, daylight crept in from the street, and they paused. Beyond the shadows, the world surged with life. Cars whizzed by, oblivious to their plight. Do you see that? The officer pointed to a nearby bus stop. We can take a bus and vanish for a while. Lily hesitated, the rush of other people suddenly overwhelming. What if they're scanning the buses? They wouldn't risk drawing attention, Sarah replied, her voice steady. It's our best shot. We have to take the gamble. Lily swallowed hard, knowing what was at stake. The weight of the unknown gripped her tightly, swirling with fear but also something else, a burgeoning defiance. We're doing it, she decided, her voice echoing through the dull roar of the city. As they darted towards the bus stop, the world seemed to both stretch and narrow. Jake felt the urgency pulsing through him but held on to hope. Just then, a car screeched to a halt nearby. What is happening? Jake's pulse quickened as he turned to the others. Fear thundered back into the air. Could they outrun this threat before it engulfed them completely? As the door of the car swung open, the looming question remained, would they make it to safety, or did their real battle lie ahead? The group skidded to a halt, hearts pounding in unison as a figure stepped out of the car. The headlights of the vehicle cast an ominous glow against the backdrop of the alley. It was a man, his face obscured by shadows, but his posture screamed authority. Jake felt the tension stab through the air. Lily! He shouted, his voice crackling with urgency. He pulled her close, preparing to shield her from whatever came next. Carol's eyes darted between the man and her daughter, panic evident in her furrowed brow. Stay in the shadows. The officer hissed, moving the group closer to the wall as if to merge them with the night. The footsteps grew louder, echoing ominously against the pavement. What does he want with you? Jake urged under his breath, pulling Lily protectively behind him. I don't know. She cried, fear spilling from her eyes, but there was a flicker of determination within her as well. The man approached, his expression hidden in the shadows, but his voice was loud and clear. I know you're here, Lily. He called, scanning the alley like a hawk surveying its territory. You can't hide from the truth. What does that mean? Jake murmured, glancing at Lily, whose eyes widened. Jake, Lily whispered back, her voice trembling, he knows something. Something about me. The tension unfurled as if it had its own heartbeat. Just as Jake was about to react, a glimmer of recognition washed over Lily's face. "Wait!" she suddenly called, stepping forward, surprising everyone. "Why are you looking for me?" The man paused, the shadows shifting as he narrowed his gaze. "Because you have something that belongs to us," he said slowly, a hint of menace in his tone. The air was thick with confusion. "What do you mean?" Lily pressed, her voice trembling with newfound resolve. "I don't know anything about you." "You will," he insisted with a fixed stare, his voice clipped. "Your father's mistakes aren't just as they're yours too." Jake felt the heat spike in his chest. "You leave her out of this," he shouted, stepping protectively in front of Lily, fists clenched in rage. The man chuckled darkly. "Bold, aren't you, Jake? You think you can shield her from the truth?" Lily's heart raced. "What truth?" she demanded, feeling a surge of strength. "You don't scare me. Just tell me what you want." Jake's heart swelled with pride. There she was, the girl he always knew was in there, pushing back against fear. "Enough games." The man barked, his frustration cracking through the command tone. "We just want what's ours. There are things you don't understand, things about your mother, Mom." Lily interrupted, her voice steely. "What does she have to do with this?" The air became electric, filled with the weight of revelation. "Everything," he said, taking a step towards them. "It's time for the truth. About her past, and yours. If you want to protect your mother and yourself, you'll come with me." "Never!" Carol shouted, her voice strong yet laced with fear. "You have no right." The hinges of conflict creaked, unsteady, as they stood at the precipice of an unknown truth that could shatter their fragile bond. "Lily," Jake whispered, his heart racing. "We have to make a choice. Are we going to face this together or run away?" Lily looked into her mother's eyes, searching for strength and reassurance. "Together," she breathed, a silent promise hanging in the air. The brute chuckled, sensing their collective resolve. "You think you can decide? The past is already looking back at you." With a shared glance, Jake stepped forward again, resolved this time. "Lily can make her own choices. We're not afraid," he declared, standing tall. The figure faltered. "You'll regret this, all of you." "Maybe," Lily replied, her voice steady but filled with trembles. "But at least we'll do it as a family together." There was a promise twinkling in her resolve, and as Jake held her gaze, he felt the world tilting back toward the possibility of healing. The man backed up slowly, realizing the strength of their unity. "I'll be watching," he warned, before retreating into the shadows, leaving the lanes open. The silence that followed was charged, filled with relief and anxious possibilities. "Are you okay?" Jake asked softly, looking into Lily's eyes, still lit with determination. "I think so," she responded, her cheeks wet but her spirit unyielded. "But we need to find the truth. All of it." And for the first time, they felt a thread of hope weaving through the danger. Together, they'd face whatever awaited them, a family renewed, holding on to newfound belief against the weight of a broken past. Jake nodded, his heart swelling with emotions he thought long buried. "We will uncover it all. Together," he reaffirmed, wrapping an arm around Lily and Carol. As they re-emerged into the world, they understood that every step they took from here would forge new connections, pushing away shadows cast by fear. This moment of unity marked the beginning of their journey, the dawning realization that the real battle lay in embracing who they were becoming, and just like that, as a soft light began to break into the alley, they stepped not into fight, but into understanding, a family ready to confront their truth, hand in hand, forging through whatever the future held. Now, it's your turn. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this inspiration. Comment below your reactions and thoughts about the ending. What did it mean for you? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.